Okay.
In real life, I do a lot for the people. Now let's line up to the statistics. You talking or you doing? You heard? You talk a good one. What have you done?
Yeah.
You dig? Yeah. You know what I mean? People I watch.
Jim Jones is at a turning point in his career where his actions are saying more than any words ever could. The tension around him isn't just about what's happening on the surface. It's a reflection of how he feels inside. He isn't reacting to single events anymore. He's responding to a pattern. A series of frustrations, perceived betrayals, and changes in the music world have built up. Things that once made him seem strong now sometimes look defensive. Every comment, every subtle jab, every warning seems to show that he senses the power around him shifting, and he's trying to find his footing again. Part of this comes from how much the hip-hop industry has changed. Loyalty, which used to be the most important form of respect, isn't the same today. Back in the day, if you built a relationship with someone, it meant something real. Today, influence is measured differently. Streaming numbers, social media presence, brand partnerships, and public attention all play huge roles. Alliances shift fast. Jim's approach, which depends on people honoring history and past deeds, doesn't always work in this new world. When he expects recognition just because of his past, he sometimes comes up empty-handed. That can lead to frustration, which sometimes shows up in public moments. Perception is another big factor. The way Jim's actions are seen publicly shapes the story people tell about him. Moves meant to show power or authority can often look like overreactions. Hip-hop thrives on energy, but it also thrives on timing and subtlety. Loud reactions or threats without strategy can backfire. When figures like 50 Cent respond calmly or even mock him, it shows that influence is expressed differently now. Lack of acknowledgement might feel like disrespect, but it's really a sign of a culture that values timing and execution over history, and that's what Jim is learning the hard way. Isolation is making things more difficult. People who were once close to him are now independent. Some avoid conflict entirely. Others move toward newer artists who represent the next generation. For Jim, who values loyalty so much, this can feel like betrayal, even when it's just business as usual. As his circle shrinks, it can feel like the game is passing him by. Relevance feels uncertain, and it seems like his voice doesn't carry the weight it used to. At the heart of this situation is a clash between control and adaptation. Jim has always thrived when he felt in control. The problem now is that the industry doesn't reward control in the old way. Success comes from perception, momentum, and adaptability. Trying to force respect through warnings or threats often has the opposite effect. Strong influence now is subtle, earned through consistent work, visibility, and smart choices, not nostalgia or intimidation. Even so, Jim has tools he can use. He has experience, a legacy, and a platform, but he faces a choice: continue trying to apply old rules to a new system, or adapt and use his influence in ways that fit today's world. Those who succeed now know how to navigate alliances, manage perception, and act with timing. Influence is felt more than it is declared, and the game demands understanding that. The danger for Jim is that continued public frustration could damage his credibility. Memes, jokes, and indifference are signs that attention is moving elsewhere. Reacting constantly makes him look defensive and out of touch, but if he channels his energy strategically, he can regain respect and relevance without demanding it. Action, not reaction, will define his comeback. This isn't just about ego or conflict, it's about finding his place in an evolving industry. The shift from respect based on loyalty to influence based on visibility is difficult. Jim's current actions reflect that struggle. How he moves from here, through adaptation or resistance, will shape his legacy in hip-hop. The first step is to pick battles wisely. Not every comment, meme, or slight deserves a reaction. Hip-hop is full of noise, and reacting to every jab only makes him look defensive. By holding back, Jim can conserve energy for moments that truly matter, when his legacy, business, or close allies are at stake. This strategy also builds anticipation. When he does act or speak, people will pay attention. Next, collaboration is more powerful than conflict. The industry respects those who create value, not just defend ego. By working with rising artists or producing new music, Jim can show why he still matters. Collaborations with old friends and new voices show adaptability and remind everyone that influence comes from building, not tearing down. Controlling the narrative is crucial. Public perception is everything in today's music world. Social media, interviews, and appearances can shape how the culture sees him. Instead of reacting to every slight online, Jim can tell stories about his career, his lessons, and his wins. Subtle, well-timed actions speak louder than loud reactions. A smart post, a strong single, or an interview can turn the conversation from jokes to respect. Building a strong inner circle is another key step. Loyalty matters, but it has to be mutual. Surrounding himself with people who understand today's industry and who can give honest advice will help him avoid overreactions. A trusted team can turn isolation into strength and guide him towards smart, impactful moves. Adapting without losing identity is critical. Jim's legacy is built on loyalty, energy, and credibility. Those qualities are still powerful, but now they must be combined with modern strategies for visibility, branding, and collaboration. By blending old-school respect with new-school tactics, he can remain authentic while staying relevant. Silence can also be strategic. In a world where everyone reacts immediately, restraint becomes powerful. Choosing not to respond to minor provocations creates intrigue and gives him control over when and how he communicates. Silence, when used correctly, often has more impact than constant reaction. Frustration can be turned into productivity. Instead of venting publicly, Jim can focus on music, media projects, or business ventures that show his creativity and influence. Action builds authority. Shouting only builds drama. The culture respects what you do more than what you say. The choice is clear. Continue reacting and risk losing credibility, or adapt, channel energy into collaborations, visibility, and strategic moves. History matters, but relevance today is earned through action, timing, and impact. To start, Jim should evaluate the current landscape. Who respects his legacy? Who is indifferent? Who is moving independently? Quietly reconnect with loyal allies and surround himself with advisors who understand both him and the modern industry. Avoid public displays of frustration. This is a time for planning and reflection. Next, focus on strategic silence. Don't react to minor jabs or online chatter. Let his absence from unnecessary disputes create anticipation. At the same time, subtly remind people of his influence. Share achievements, drop music or content, or make posts that highlight his legacy without appearing defensive. Collaborations are the next step. Work with rising artists to reach a younger audience. Partner with trusted allies to show credibility. Projects don't have to be flashy, they just need to demonstrate influence, skill, and the ability to shape the culture. Once momentum is rebuilt, Jim can engage selectively, respond only to meaningful issues, and share messages that reinforce his narrative. Each public move should be deliberate, thoughtful, and authoritative. Speak with purpose, not out of reaction. Projects that showcase both legacy and modern relevance are powerful. This could be a documentary, playlist, or mixtape that connects old school and new school influence. Storytelling about loyalty, lessons learned, and street credibility reminds fans and peers why his voice matters. Influence goes beyond music. Fashion, media, and partnerships can reinforce his brand. Strategic business moves show ambition, vision, and relevance. They overshadow old controversies and position him as a modern force in hip-hop. Show loyalty in action. Publicly support artists or projects without creating conflict. Elevate others quietly to demonstrate influence. These moves strengthen relationships and create a perception of authority based on action, not threats. By the end of the year, Jim should assess progress. Strategic silence, collaborations, and measured engagement should re-establish him as relevant. The key is consistency. Maintain selective engagement, reinforce alliances, and focus on influence, not reaction. In short, Jim should react less and build more. Let actions speak louder than words. Preserve loyalty while embracing the evolving music scene. Control the narrative with subtlety and use frustration as fuel for creativity. By doing this, he can move from reacting to defining his role in hip-hop. The result is a comeback built on influence, respect, and relevance, without looking desperate, defensive, or out of touch. Jim Jones now faces the reality that his past achievements, while impressive, don't automatically guarantee respect in the current landscape. The music world has shifted to reward adaptability, visibility, and influence over history alone. He's learning that people don't automatically follow loyalty. They follow opportunity, momentum, and relevance. This realization can be hard to accept, especially for someone whose career was built on relationships, consistency, and being present when it mattered most. The challenge isn't just public perception, it's also understanding how power flows differently in today's industry. Influence is no longer centralized, it's distributed across social media, streaming platforms, emerging artists, and public attention. Success requires reading these currents and learning how to navigate them without losing the essence of who he is. Another major factor in Jim's current situation is the way loyalty has been replaced, in part, by fleeting alliances. Where once a handshake or shared history would seal a deal or command respect, now partnerships are temporary and fluid. People move quickly toward projects that generate attention or financial gain. This fast pace makes the industry feel unpredictable, especially to someone who values consistency and trust. For Jim, it can feel like the rules have changed overnight. Friends and collaborators who were once steadfast may now prioritize opportunity over shared history. The result is a sense of instability, leaving him to rethink how he interacts with peers, negotiates partnerships, and asserts influence without appearing out of touch. Public perception adds another layer of complexity. Every move Jim makes is scrutinized and dissected on social media. In this environment, a single overreaction can go viral, undermining the authority he's trying to project. The audience today doesn't just consume music, they watch behavior, interpret subtleties, and judge character in real time. Even small actions, an Instagram story, a public comment, or a social media post, carry weight far beyond what's intended. Jim's previous approach, which relied on reputation and history, isn't enough. He now needs to understand timing, optics, and subtlety. Loud reactions, while satisfying in the moment, can create narratives that he doesn't want. On the other hand, strategic action, well-timed collaborations, meaningful public statements, or creative projects can shift perception without confrontation. Isolation is also a significant factor. The people who once formed his inner circle have changed. Some have moved on, others avoid conflict, and many align themselves with emerging figures. For someone like Jim, who places immense value on loyalty, this can feel like betrayal, but in reality, it's just the natural evolution of the industry. Still, the shrinking of his circle creates pressure. Without trusted advisors who understand the modern landscape, the risk of overreaction grows. If Jim acts impulsively, he could damage relationships or miss opportunities that would reinforce his relevance. The key is rebuilding a supportive network of people who balance respect for his legacy with an understanding of today's dynamics. With the right team, isolation can be transformed into a source of strategic strength rather than vulnerability. At its core, Jim's situation is about control. He has always thrived when he felt he was guiding the environment around him. The challenge now is that influence no longer works through dominance or intimidation. The current music world rewards subtlety, adaptability, and momentum. Attempts to command respect through confrontation can backfire. Influence is no longer given, it's earned repeatedly through performance, visibility, and strategic presence. Understanding this shift is crucial. Jim, he must channel the energy he once used to enforce authority into tools that build reputation and relevance in modern ways. The path forward is multi-layered. First, Jim must focus on patience and selectivity. Not every slight deserves a response. By letting minor things slide, he conserves energy and builds anticipation. When he chooses to act, his moves carry weight. Second, collaborations are more important than conflicts. Aligning with rising stars and respected peers allows him to demonstrate influence without confrontation. Building together creates visibility and relevance, whereas constant reaction risks eroding credibility. Third, controlling public perception is key. Social media, interviews, and content drops are all opportunities to shape how the culture views him. Strategic storytelling, highlighting both achievements and lessons learned, can shift attention from criticism to respect. Building a strong inner circle is equally important. Jim needs advisors and partners who provide honest feedback and understand the industry's current dynamics. This support helps him avoid impulsive reactions and focus on moves that reinforce his legacy. Loyalty matters, but it has to be paired with strategic insight. By cultivating the right team, he can turn isolation into a strategic advantage, ensuring every action aligns with long-term goals. Adaptability is critical, but it must be paired with authenticity. Jim's core identity, loyalty, energy, credibility, and street influence remains valuable. These traits are his foundation. The modern challenge is using them in ways that resonate with today's audience. By pairing authenticity with modern influence strategies, strategic collaborations, content creation, and selective engagement, he can reclaim relevance without losing what makes him unique. Finally, silence is a powerful tool. In a world dominated by constant reactions, restraint creates intrigue and authority. Choosing not to respond to every comment or meme allows Jim to control the narrative. Silence can amplify influence in ways loud reactions never can. The energy he feels from frustration can instead fuel creativity, projects, and collaborations, transforming potential public conflicts into constructive outcomes. Once Jim Jones has taken a step back and assessed the landscape, the next stage is action, but action that is deliberate and strategic. The first step is rebuilding connections with people who respect both his legacy and understand the current hip-hop environment. He needs allies who can offer perspective on what moves will resonate, what collaborations make sense, and when to remain silent. These allies should be trusted confidants, not just fans or yes-men, because the real challenge is navigating the modern industry while protecting his influence. By surrounding himself with people who understand both past and present dynamics, he can make informed decisions that maximize impact while minimizing missteps. Collaboration is essential. In today's hip-hop world, relevance is often tied to visibility, and visibility comes from working with the right people at the right time. Jim can strategically align himself with emerging artists who have momentum, lending credibility while simultaneously showing that he is still connected and influential. Collaborations with older, respected artists reinforce his credibility and remind the culture of his roots. Every project, whether a song, a feature, or a business venture, becomes a statement about influence, skill, and relevance. Instead of responding to perceived slights, Jim can redirect energy into creating moments that the culture can't ignore. At the same time, he must focus on controlling public perception. Social media, interviews, and content releases are tools to shape the story around him. In the past, he may have relied on reactions or public statements to defend his legacy. Now, a more strategic approach is needed: storytelling, highlighting accomplishments, and demonstrating forward-thinking moves. For example, a well-timed music drop, a documentary, or a curated playlist can remind fans and peers why Jim Jones is still relevant.